Loud.
All right. Well, welcome everybody that's sitting in tonight to the subcommittee of the Planning and Zoning on November 13th. And it's the 2026 zoning regulation update discussion draft set number 2, 2025. So going forward, I will be the acting chair in the meantime until the end of the month, but I'll turn this meeting over to Tara. Tara, you will have any control, and I expect a little bit of respectability between the commissioners and everything so we can get this thing going forward. I appreciate it. Thank you. You have it.
So thank you, my friend. Let me just get to screen share. Host tools, share screen. Why is it? Is that coming up for you yet or no? No, I don't think so.
No.
What the hell is going on? Oh, here we go. Share screen. You got that now?
Yep.
Yeah. So let me, before we start, say that I made an error. I didn't send myself my Word copy. I sent the PDF copy to myself, so I can't make sidebar notes, so I'm keeping hand notes on the side tonight. I don't think it's going to be a big deal. It's more of a nuisance for me than it is for you guys, but we've gotten in the habit of me typing in on the side as we go, so I just wanted you to be aware. Go ahead, Joe.
Before you go forward, who we have in as commissioners tonight? Oh,
yes, very good. So JBL, John B. Lenke, acting chair this evening, Ryan Canoyer, Brian Santos, Kais Orlevac, and then for staff, Cindy Dunn and myself. And I will call it out as any other commissioners come in.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So we can actually be a little more freeform tonight if you want, if there's anything you want to particularly go over. I say that because we've gone through the whole thing at least once. So I think we can start to zoom around. The resolution on my screen isn't great for the green that I used for whatever reason. The red is nice and clear, but the green is where you guys have already, I feel, reached consensus, which is to suggest that perhaps you don't need to discuss any of those things, but if anybody's looking at anything that they want to go, I'll go slowly in order here and just ask if anybody wants to go over anything in definitions. If so, say so. If not, we'll move to next.
Yeah, I do. I feel like I'm late to the party on this. But I had additions to all 3 of those sections.
Okay. Go for it.
So junk dealer, I didn't change anything in green because I agreed with all of that. I just felt like it should be a little bit more detailed at the end, and I'll just read what I wrote. And it just starts right after section 21A 446. I wrote this. I said, junk dealers must obtain all required local licenses or permits from the town of Thompson prior to operating. This use includes only indoor storage. Any outdoor storage of materials may classify the use as a junk yard. This definition does not include, and I felt like this was important, antique shops, thrift stores, redemption centers. All junk dealer operations shall conduct in a clean, orderly manner and shall comply with local noise, traffic, and waste regulations.
So I have no issue with anything you just said, Brian, except these are just definitions.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I know.
what you're getting in with a junk dealer shall have this license or whatever, that would be what's described.
Yeah, but that's under junkyards. So that's why I added all of
Oh,
that.
I see what you're saying. I see.
There was no such like further outline for junk dealer. So that's why I added all of that.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, so it's an interesting point. So we didn't even start with a definition for junk dealer because we were only talking about junk yards. I added junk dealer because in my mind, a junk dealer is operating out of a junkyard. But maybe
Well,
you bring up a good point.
but I guess that's where my point is. It's like, listen, I am not, I am definitely not somebody that deals with junk yards. I don't know all of these ins and outs, but for me, I felt like it should have been like a little bit more clear that this use is only indoors, right? Like that's why I added on. This use includes only indoor storage because I felt like the junk yard is outside. So I added some stuff to that too. Um,
I get what you're saying now.
so can I just,
So
I'll
what you're saying, B, is that you're looking at junk dealer and junkyard as being two different types of business uses. I actually wasn't. I was looking at the business use being the junkyard and the
I
dealer
am,
being the operator.
I am
So
100% looking at them as independent operations.
I see. Okay. Now your comment makes more sense to me.
Can I share my
So
screen so people can see? I copy and pasted what you did, so it's not like it's anything different. I just
yeah,
add
I just have to I have to get to the user tools and then I will give you,
because I bolded everything here so people see what I did.
yeah, you should be able to share screen now.
Okay, 1 second.
So I just want to note for the minutes that Randy Blackmer entered at 7:04 and First Selectman-elect Nick Donahue entered as well.
So this is what was in green. And then I
Yep.
added all of this because of exactly what you just said. I just felt there needs to be more clarity around this because there was no, I added this for junkyard. We'll get to that in a second. There's, and I added all this in bold here too, because there was no section just like this.
I got you. So in that case, what I would say is what your additional language would be added
Yeah.
under not the definition, but to further flesh out that section on junkyards, that would become junkyards and junk dealers. Right, because anything
Oh,
where you're any place where you're declaring that an action must take place, now you're not defining, now you're regulating. So that is regulatory language that belongs in that later section.
well,
Um,
I mean, I'm okay. I guess I would agree with that because that's the way we did it for these next two sections, and it should just follow that type of like outline. So I don't
yeah.
have a problem like helping you take this and make it into an I call it an itemized listing here, right?
Mhm.
Um okay, so I can do that, and I'm not trying to slow the process down here, but I felt like it's important to outline some of these things and define it a little bit more. Um
Um, if I may interject into this with Brian, just give Brian, we're trying to get for me, I was in that business when I was growing up. Junkyards was the word they used back in the day. Okay, back in the day was, you went to a junkyard, you could get a part off a car. Some parts were stored in a building because they were salvageable and stuff like that. But the industry changed and they went into calling it auto recyclers and stuff, where they can take a car apart, salvage whatever is salvageable, and then put it into a warehouse and store it. Because like what's that place on? Used to be Webster Auto Recycle, but now it's LKQ and all of them. Linders. Standard Auto Wrecking, I remember them, that's the way they did it. Now they salvage stuff and they can store it, but we need to get a better, to me, the word junkyard needs to be limited as much as possible, and we need to start using the words recycling, auto recycling, trash recycling, or whatever, because that's how it's described today in this industry that we have today. It's all turned into an industry. Just to give you, you know, from my years of experience working in this field.
Sure. And
I see.
that's fine. So
Go ahead, B, and then I got Cindy with her hand up.
oh, go ahead, Cindy.
I just want to make you, want to make you aware that in your definition there, Brian, we don't have any noise regulations.
I
So,
know, but maybe we do eventually.
well,
you
yeah,
know?
and then, as far as traffic, who would take care of that? We don't have a police force. And waste regulations, what are you relating to on the waste?
I was just
What
making this-
regulations are you relating to?
we don't have any.
Right, so that's for, I think that needs to be noted
Yeah,
to work with that for putting this together.
it's mostly, let's put it this way. I'm telling these people that are operating indoors in an indoor storage unit, if they're selling stuff, right, that they need to do it in a clean, orderly manner, and a shot across the bow that they need to keep the noise and traffic levels down. Now, I know there's no regulation on that, but it's just a shot across the bow that, we're thinking about those things, right?
Good point, Brian, good point.
So what is your point? I don't get it. Is it a thrift store? Is it a junk store?
That
I'm
what
not
he's
clear on
specifically
what you're
saying
trying to
here
do
is that that antique shops and thrift stores are not junk dealers
Correct.
in the language that he's constructed, for sure.
That's correct.
So do we have definitions for thrift stores and antique stores?
I would suggest that we do not need specific regulations for those, because any of those things would just fall under retail, right?
Mm.
You're taking money for goods.
Well, it's still recycled goods, regardless of how you can look at it. The quality is the difference. My feeling is if you're going to address something in your uses, that you need to have definitions, and that's probably one of the lacking in our regulations. Is there and I can't point it out right now because I don't have any notes in front of me, but every now and then I'll go, oh, let me look at the definition. And I'll go and look at the definition, and there's no definition. So we have a bit of that in our regulations where something is regulated, but there's no definition. Or if there's a definition, well, we've always,
I think I should just take this out, because I think Cindy's right. If I'm going to say it's not included, somebody's going to say, well, where is it included? Right. And again, I'm not trying to overcomplicate this. I was just sharing my thoughts.
No, I think it's a fine point, Brian. I would just suggest that that new language again belongs in the regulatory language, not in the definition language. So I would ask you to send this to me, as I'm sure you're going to anyway,
Yep.
so that I can cut and paste from it into the section
Absolutely.
where we're actually creating the regulatory provisions.
No problem.
and Brian, I think that was fine work too. I mean, I appreciate you doing that. Yeah.
No problem. No problem. All right. So I'll send this to you, ladies, and you can manipulate it from there. Junkyard, I left it green. It was everything. I just added the word, I think it said you had stored. I said sorted or deposited.
I think that's good. Yeah. I like that.
I think that's what you had, right? I just want to make sure I'm clear here.
Sorted is what you added.
I
Yeah.
added the word sorted.
Sorted.
And then I was trying, and I said does not include, I think you had that on me, because auto salvage or recycling yards governed by, and you had this section. Then I added antique stores and or thrift stores. I think I added that at the end.
Right, but on the same principle that you just took it from the other, I would take it
I
out of
think
there too.
I think we could just end it with a period. Do that. All right. Then I added this. For the purposes of this chapter, junkyards are considered outdoor commercial uses. The commission shall apply this definition when reviewing applications, but all operational, zoning, and environmentals are set forth in that section. Right. And then I went down to,
Mhm.
we can get to it here. Everything in bold I added, everything else was already green.
Okay, so on this section that we're looking at, which is your draft, anything in bold is
Is
not
not-
new content that I put in since last time. This is new content from you. Okay, that's fair.
correct. So I added this. I said in the town top, new junkyards are only allowed in business development districts under special permit. For the purpose of these regulations, a junkyard is considered an outdoor commercial use. I want to make sure it's crystal clear that it's for outdoor.
Yeah, I think I got you. And with the language that you suggested for dealer, that gives me a shape of how I would put that in here, right? So I'd have a section on junk dealers, I'd have a section on junk yards. They would be very similar, but one would be an indoor and one would be an outdoor use.
That is correct.
Okay, yeah, I can work with that.
Is it okay if I just take the floor and go through all these things? And
Yeah,
then
sure.
comment? Is that all right? All right.
It's fine with me, B. Since I
Mike, you
can't
got
make
it?
any sidebar comments in my own draft and I'm just handwriting,
Yeah, I'm going to send you this, like
Yeah.
I usually do. Lanky, is that okay, pal? If I do that?
Excuse me?
Is it okay if I just run through these?
Yeah, go ahead. Your input is very well welcome.
Okay.
In fact, I mean, your insight has been very helpful, and I appreciate it because you give a different insight than, remember, you're from this side of the realm and I'm on this side. So if we can get together in the middle, I think it's a plus.
All right, very good. I wrote here, you said the application description, proposed materials stored and stuff, but I just wanted to make sure that the perimeters of the outdoor yard were controlled a little bit. So I said the applicant shall also indicate measures for visual screening, fencing, or some sort of landscaping to minimize impacts on surrounding properties.
yeah, can you scroll down further? Because I thought that I indicated something about screening in this draft. Yeah, buffer requirements.
Oh, yeah, right here. And then I just said the same thing again. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a double dip.
Brian,
Yeah.
that pertains to when the people were taking over the old what's his name here on Linehouse Road from not too far from my house.
Bates Auto.
Bates Auto, thank you.
Yeah.
He took it over, bought it, went through all the thing. When they came in, we required them to put up a 10-foot fence and all this other stuff, and they cleaned up the yard. They did a very, very good job. Are they storing some cars there? Yes, to salvage for parts and stuff. And it's so now it becomes a control, is the best way to put it, is it's becoming a controlled environment, and they have to meet the state or the state registry and everything, what the registry requires as well. That's what we kind of we based it on.
Yep.
Was that helpful to you?
Very.
Okay, because
Yeah,
that's
no, that's good. I like the word control because that's in my mindset as I'm drafting these things.
yes, but that's the only way we can control it with the verbiage and everything. But we have to. They're now called out. There's no more. The word junkyard is not used anymore. The word junk is being used as people pile it up on their yards and stuff, and you know where that can go. But if we keep it with the word control and everything is following what the registry, the Department of Motor Vehicle is, because they have a certain criteria. They have different definitions out. They have salvage yard, repair, guy that wants to do repair, they got to meet that requirement. So it's a if we can get the CEO or the Tira to see what the state, what the registry is now coming more forward, what they feel is the correct way to help us control how we want things done in our town.
Yeah, well, they always have to go back to these chapters, John, right?
Correct.
They're always governed by these that do get amended. So that's kind of where you're headed. That's the state guidelines, right?
Yeah.
That's right. These are cribbed directly out of
Yeah.
Connecticut general statutes.
Yep.
So as long as we follow the guidelines, Brian, I think it'll give us, the word control better, control it better.
Sure, sure. So I'm just kind of expanding on these a little bit more. Like we talk about waste, batteries, antifreeze, all that's fine. I'm just adding in, and the commission may require additional environmental protection measures to prevent runoff or contamination. And I don't know what those are, but I'm opening up the door for inland wetlands or us or some other entity to say, yeah, we're going to provide additional environmental protection measures, right?
Just to add to that again, Brian, you just said it, is that batteries and stuff like that have to be stored in a containment area where if any acid or battery breaks, the acid leak out on the ground. Back in the day, like, we didn't care, but today it has to be in a certain container that will contain whatever happens, you know what I'm saying?
Sure. So this one I just said, okay, if we're talking about trucks being covered, I'm going to say the commission may limit hours of operation or control of entry and exit routes to reduce the impacts on nearby residential areas, right?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
That sounds good. That's a
All
good
right,
one.
so this one I was accidentally double dip, and now that I'm thinking about it, I actually did paste that down there, so you can manipulate that whichever way you want, Tira. And then I just added this at the end. Exemptions, the definitions do not include automotive salvage, recycling yards, antique stores, thrift stores, or automated kiosks for consumer electronics. We talked about this one before, but I
Well,
don't know.
that automated kiosk for consumer electronics, that's just directly out of statute, so I left it in there.
Yeah,
And automotive salvage recycling yards is in there specifically because we keep having this same discussion about how what
exactly.
we're calling a junkyard is not the same thing as an auto salvage or recycling
Yeah,
yard.
probably can
But I would
strike-
also suggest that taking out, again, as you did in
yeah,
the,
you could just strike it.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, Cindy, what you got?
You're on mute, Cindy.
Sorry. I started reading this when I came home to prepare for tonight's meeting, and I'm seeing a lot on the junkyard. So I know I missed one meeting. I missed two meetings. So I guess I'm behind on this junkyard issue. If what you're trying to do here, you're going to allow these regulations will allow a junk dealer business in certain districts in our community. And
Yeah, pretty much. The consensus discussion for the last two meetings was, and I think we were keeping some certain applicants whom we'd seen in mind, is that the commission had some options, right? And one option is you ban the use entirely, although there were some known sort of existing non-conformings out there. Or you write a regulation that permits it with appropriate controls, like anything else. So the consensus was that it would be potentially allowable in the business development district, right? Which is,
Yeah.
Right,
the
I saw
rock
that.
quarries are there, the propane's there, things like that.
Yeah.
And so I set about between the two last meetings to look for some good samples. I got some good sample language out of Plainfield. I was referred to them by somebody at DEEP, I think, or maybe through NECOG. So I did look, and if you scroll down there, all the way down, Brian, since we're looking at yours right now.
Oh, you still on mine? Okay, I went to
Yeah.
I went to
Yeah, only one of us can share screen at a time, so if you're sharing, I'm not.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
When-
so go, yeah, up to the top of the section. Yeah, right there. So, some of this stuff is stuff that I, wrote very simple to have the light hand, but then some of the other stuff that I added after I reviewed playing fields and maybe some stuff on the EPA website. The stuff about waste oil batteries and antifreeze as being prohibited substances, and the reference to 40 CFR Part 261 Subpart C came out of one of those two sources, and I don't know which one. But most of this was, I mean, pretty common sense stuff. So some of it I'm not even sure which was my additions and which ones I cribbed from the sample. I know the stuff on waste oil and batteries and antifreeze. Scroll down a little more, B. I added, that's actually mine, the handling of materials not being in direct contact on the soil. And that was something that actually came up when we were discussing the Jake's property and what was going to happen if those cans were stored there. People were very concerned that stuff not essentially be sitting on raw dirt, because that's how your contamination occurs. So that's where I came up with that in between the two times. I mean, I actually think they're pretty good, but I'm certainly open to more suggestions. And Brian, I think your additions are pretty good here.
I just have one, let me change the screen here. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. Uh, Second, this here. Okay. Just on this here, see, so for junk dealer, I just want to make sure that where the hell is it? So
Well,
you
junk
might
dealers
say-
is in the definitions, which is up near the top.
Yeah, but see, it doesn't say where junk dealers are allowed to operate, which I feel like it should be junk dealers and junk yards here.
Yes, I would make that change based on this conversation.
Yep. Okay.
Yes,
Wanna
yes,
make sure.
agreed.
And then that just to be reiterate to Cindy, then it would just be allowed in the BDD. And it would be a special permit.
Yeah, and everybody so far has seemed happy with that suggestion. BDD only, special permit. Nobody has come out saying that they are dying to have this as a business use in any other district, so.
But
Definitely junk
there were
dealer.
some districts where you said it is a simple zoning permit, right? Or did I read that wrong?
No, not for this.
Not for this. Neither one of these is a simple. Neither one.
Okay, something else then that's coming up. All right, I'm sorry.
Correct. Yeah.
As long
Yeah.
as you keep it out of the RRAD.
Yeah, it's totally out of that. 1 second. All right. So I'll just skip to mobile food vendors. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. I think we've, I think we've had everything we have to say about junkyards for now, unless anybody else has been sitting on a comment.
Tara, I missed the last meeting. Just give me a quick rundown, or I don't know if Brian was in on the last meeting.
Yeah, I missed the last one. I think that's
Oh,
why I'm late to the party here.
Give me a quick rundown, because like I said, I didn't get to see whatever it was about the food trucks, from what I read and everything. Can you give me a little better,
Yeah, I mean, we discussed it quite a bit. You'll notice if you printed out the draft in color,
Yep,
anything that's in green there, which I think was probably most of the section on mobile food vendors or food trucks, or however we constructed the language, everybody seemed pretty happy with it.
okay,
Um, uh,
So here's your mobile vendor section,
yeah.
right? And I added onto this, and then there's also a breakdown of that, which I added stuff to this section too, which I'll share in a second.
Yeah, you can go back to your draft if you
Yep.
want to, since you've added stuff, and again, because I'm
Yeah,
a
so I
dummy
left.
and sent myself a PDF copy, I can't manipulate my text, so we may as well use
So
yours.
this is all green, right? Again, mine is bold. So I just wanted
Yep.
to make sure it was clear that mobile food vendors do not include temporary vendors at one-time private or municipal events, right? I was thinking about what was that rock, the guy that has those concerts or whatever. I think he probably has one-time private events. And I added here, which may be regulated separately, and that might not be the case to Cindy's earlier point, but
Right, so again, if you go down to the actual section that we wrote on that, those things are addressed in there.
yeah, totally. So this is what I added. I said, okay, here's what we had, simple review. And then I said, and I was thinking about the young lady that came in the last time in our last meeting. She's setting up outside of Thompson Plaza there.
Yep,
I just said, I was thinking about her when I wrote this because we talked about this. Said mobile food vendors must receive a siting approval from the town prior to operating at any location, which that's what we did. And all mobile vendors shall obtain required permits for Uncast Health District. I got,
That would be NDDH, by the way.
oh, this is NDDH. I went to
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
web. It said that they were controlling that, but NDDH. Okay.
yeah. Um,
All right.
So I would say this about this added sentence. The entire purpose of regulations is to give citing approval. So that is a redundant statement to the purpose of regulations in general, right? You're approving the location of a food vendor, of a mobile food vendor, food truck. The only reason I didn't use the term food truck is because sometimes they're not actually trucks per se. Like a hot dog cart isn't a truck, but we would still include them under here.
yeah,
Yeah.
they come under that because they're mobile.
Right.
I just
Right.
remember that young lady saying, is it okay to set up here? And then we asked her about where she was getting her power from and stuff like that. So I guess that's redundant.
No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And the reason why I don't think it is because if one food vendor might say, oh, they got a food truck over there, I think I'll set up. And all of a sudden you see somebody else set up and they have no permits. So I feel that that is a very, very important statement.
Okay.
Even if it
Right,
is
right. But
redundant
Cindy,
someplace else.
the whole purpose of the regulation is that it is citing approval. So it's redundant to say that you need citing approval. That's what the permit is. It's your citing
No,
approval.
what I'm saying is that there are people who are going to drive by and say, oh, Thompson allows food trucks. I'm going to park my food truck here and not even consider that he or she has to get a permit.
Well,
That's
then,
what I'm
like
saying.
any other person who did
Just-
something without a permit, they would have to, somebody would
So
have to
then
say, hey, they're operating without a permit. And we would say, hey, you've got to come get your permit.
So I would go up to them and I would quote this regulation right here. It says plainly says.
I don't think it hurts us by leaving it in. So
I don't think so either.
what difference
think
does
it's
I will
good.
tell you why I think I will tell you the other reason I think it's not appropriate is because you have a level of review, which is site plan review by commission, right? Citing approval is very similar in language to site plan review by commission. So I think this makes it less clear that it's a zoning permit simple, which is an applicant goes into Cindy
That's
and
true.
she signs off.
I forgot about the simple review. I did forget about.
Okay, so then you say mobile food vendors, you're putting, I can't read, mobile food vendors must receive citing approval from the town zoning office.
That is exactly what it says. In essence, individual mobile
All right,
food
I'm
vendors
done.
shall
Okay,
be
fine.
permitted on private business, commercial, or mixed-use
Okay.
parcels in these
Fine.
districts
Fine.
under this
Okay.
level of review. That's exactly what it says.
All right, we'll strike it. All right,
Yep,
let's move on.
sure.
Again, I was just thinking about that young lady when we were talking about this. I just added hours of operation. You said 8 a.m. to 10. I just said the commission may adjust hours to mitigate impacts on surrounding issues if we choose to.
Can I interrupt here too?
Yep.
Because I was just I wrote up her permit And, I wrote the hours 2 different ways, and the first one was so convoluted. I said I wouldn't understand it. And I just said I wish I had it here. The operating hours. How did I
You
word
had
it?
it, you had it between 7 AM and 10 PM.
10 PM, right. And it's up to you can start at 7, you have to end at 10.
That's fine. I'm just
Yeah.
opening the door for us to adjust the hours if we want to. That's all.
Yeah, I was thinking about breakfast, it's starting at 7, so.
Well, Brian, if I may, I go to Willimantic once in a while, not lately, but there are a couple food vendors in a couple places down there, and they're open down and one on Route 6. Well, actually, 3 of them, and they open at 6 o'clock in the morning. They got to open at 6 because they hit that 6 o'clock to say 8 o'clock breakfast time. People going to work or whatever. But the 7 till 10. Normally, they're closing up by noontime, unless they want to do lunch. Some of them do lunch, and some of them, by 5 o'clock, they're closing up and leaving because nobody's going to stop to get a supper. A couple hot dogs or whatever. They're going to end up going to a restaurant, a pizza place, or something. But at least we're giving them, if they want to be open till 10, that's their option.
Yep.
Would that be helpful to you?
I like a sandwich at 10, sure. I'm just saying we can adjust the hours to do whatever we like.
Exactly.
That's good too.
We could adjust the hours to what they would like. If they only want it from 7 to 5, so be it. You know what I mean? But we're giving them some leeway, which is the thing to do.
Yep. All right. This one talks about the location, impeding traffic, sightlines, handicap accessibility. I just said, again, to Cindy's earlier point, when I say local regulations, there might not be any, but I'm just, again, taking a shot across the bow here. The vendors should manage generators because I know some of them operate on generators.
Almost all of them operate on generators if they're
noise and wastewater in accordance with local regulations. So, I feel like this is something that we should be at least mentioning.
Well, and then the woman that just come in there for that Thompson Plaza, one of the questions I asked her is where you getting your power? And she says she was going to be hooked up to the building. Got the gentleman.
I feel like that's like
correct.
probably 10% of the case where 90% of them are operating with generators.
Correct.
Oh.
And then they have to meet the fire marshal. That I know we got that they're required by fire marshal. The fire marshal has to come down and check them out, make sure they're 10 feet. I know from the Maker Fair that the vendors that come in, I talked to Mr. Snee about 2-3 years ago, and I asked him a lot of questions. So when they're coming in, I make sure they have to have at least 10 feet or 8 to 10 feet between them because of the generators, and that's what he required. So when he comes down and does his permits for each individual food vendor, he looks at it, he does it, and he knows that they're meeting the requirements, and this way he can come in and go and sign off, and off they go. Okay, yeah. Just to give you a heads up. That's how that's working.
So with that, when I wrote up 520's permit, I put a copy of it into the fire marshal's mailbox, so he knows it. That she's going to be down there.
Yep, that's good.
And that would follow every other person who got a permit. The fire marshal would know about it.
Cindy, on that 520, what are they doing with the wastewater there? They've got to have some.
Yeah, that's what I was. When I said wastewater, I was thinking about like grade water dumping, which, but
that's the health department.
Yeah. Well, what's going to happen is the health, Cindy will have to tell the young lady, maybe that should have been mentioned, that if she's going to have, like some of these food vendors that I mentioned, they rent a porta john. So if somebody has to use, the bathroom for whatever reason, they have a porta john because they're not hooked up to anything to the city water or city water. So she's going to be bringing her whole water in, and then she's going to have to get that trip, probably her tank or whatever in her trailer, which they have to have one of those holding tanks for what gray water, as it's called, up to 50, 60 gallons. So she's going to know that she's going to have that pumped out by whoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's,
To JBL's point there, B, can you amend where it says wastewater to gray water?
Yes.
Because they are different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I was gonna add a few words here. I was gonna say gray water, and then I was also thinking about like, and again, I'm not some sort of
Well,
specialist here, but how about like frying oil?
Use
you know,
cooking
Yes.
oil.
Yep, you're right.
Use cooking oil. And that's the biggest thing.
Waste, I'll just call it waste, right? Oh, waste.
If you want to be really technical, you can call them FOGs, fats, oils, and greases.
correct.
I'll just say etc. Just to, I have on there, but
Brian, gray water would be considered water like, when they're washing the dishes, like in a fifth wheel,
yeah, no,
trailer,
yeah,
got two tanks, gray water, and then you got your black tank, which is the stuff that would be your waste material. Like,
yeah.
And that's all dependent on the district Department of Health to
Yes.
determine if they have the
I'm
proper,
only giving you a description of the two, Cindy, okay? Yes, it needs to be done by the NDDH, to specify. If they're gonna have X amount of people, then it might require them to rent a porta john, for that reason. Unless the guy that owns the Thompson Mall is gonna let people go into the building to use. That's between them two. But most of the time, they have to get their own way of porta johns, and a lot of them now start using porta johns just for that reason.
All right. Next one, I
Also
just
add the food truck language from some of the fairs, like I do Brooklyn and Woodstock, for instance, and they have very specific regs on what you can do with your grease that's left over with your used cooking oil. They have to dispose of it properly, and those are things that are
again, it's the health department. It's not
it is
zoning.
it's all regulated by the health department by NDD.
yeah. That's what I'm just listing NDDH.
Yeah.
I feel like that covers
Yeah,
it.
Yeah, it does.
Don't sweat too much the specifics of this language, B, because there's a lot of good suggestions here, but I think the language itself needs to be massaged. But the conversation is what is of interest to me here, and I am very confident that I can reorganize some of these words in a way that
Sure.
captures what they really mean. So don't sweat that piece too much.
Sure. And then we said trash collection. I just said I think this was about trash collection from the truck itself. I just want to make sure that they have to maintain clean and sanitary area around the units at all times. I don't want it to be a waste dump.
Again, they have to do their trash containers. A lot of
This
them.
was a double dip. I don't know why I added that again, but that's all set. And that's it.
Yeah, okay.
Very good, Brian.
Let me just stop my share again. I did read through the 1 second. I know I helped write the original, or is it?
Are you looking for the gravel
Yes,
extraction stuff?
Standing gravel extraction. So all this was very good. Appreciated the rewrite down here. Let me just share what I added a general section at the end. This one's debatable. 1 second.
Let me see what you got, brother.
I wrote this. I just said, I'm just trying to provide like a little open door policy for us. I just said all extraction, removal, filling, grading must be conducted in accordance with applicable state and local regulations, including environmental protection standards. I don't know. I just kept on thinking about the gravel mining pit when we walked that particular day. And it just really was irking me about environmental protection standards. So I wrote this food for thought. And then I said the commission may require additional measures to protect adjacent properties, water sources, which I was thinking about as well that particular day. Environmental sensitive areas, including buffers, sediment control, other mitigation strategies. I might be going off the deep end here, but, and then I said any permit issued under this section does not waive the requirements of compliance with other applicable permits, including but not limited to the building permit, any wetlands, and health department approvals. So,
I mean, I think that's all fine. What I would say is, for the purposes of what we're doing in this exercise, we're just looking at where we're amending. And there is a very lengthy section on requirements for buffering that already exists.
that's true. That's true.
So I think
There is.
when you're only looking at the portion that we're trying to
Yeah.
amend,
That's true.
I mean, you can leave that in this that you're gonna send to me and I'll just double
Yeah,
check, but
you can double check it.
I think you'll just find
I
that
was
that's
kinda going
redundant.
off my rocker when I was writing that a little bit, to be honest with you guys.
Well, welcome to the elder age.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate being in the club, I guess.
Better get used to it.
Yeah, you know what? I know it. And so I think that covered everything except for the cannabis stuff. And I will just say this on the cannabis, if I'm remaining on the floor here. I saw Ryan's email. I did take a look at that and I appreciated that data, Ryan, with the approvals, the moratoriums, and the rejections. I thought that was pretty good stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't get a chance to like really read all of the cannabis stuff. And I will just say this about it. People have been outspoken about it. I think we need to be sensitive to that. You know, the people that have provided information about it. And I'm not prepared to talk about it tonight because I wanted to spend a little bit more time with some research and really putting something together that's, at least in my mind, helping us make a better decision on this. So I saw it in there. There was maybe a recommendation to put it in another moratorium, which I'm not against doing, just to give us a little bit more time. And I think that moratorium expires in December, right?
No, it expires,
February, right?
February.
well, it expires in March, which means you
March.
have to make your decisions by your February meeting.
Yep. Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think, Brian, I'm sorry, I stopped sharing screen because I wanted to look at the draft. I think I sent you something that didn't include a provision that I thought I had added.
Yeah. I also don't want to stop this commission just because I didn't have time to do my review. So if you guys wanted to talk about it, please go ahead and do so. I'm not going to be able to contribute to it
Okay.
because
Thank you, Brian. Tara, Brian and I missed the last meeting. Can you give me what was said, more or less? I saw the side notes and everything about the what they thought would be, like 10,000 square feet, 10 acres, 50 acres. What was the consensus on that? And what was the consensus on the distance, from boundary line?
Right. So what I would say is, because the last two meetings and also this meeting have been very small and there have been a lot of opinions advanced, there is no consensus yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why some of these things are still in red. And where we left it at the last meeting was, rather than me go in and start to really put forward alternate language, because we didn't have enough consensus for that, was to do like what I've done here under number 3. Like, these are the two distances of separation distances from schools and libraries and daycare centers. Some people are in favor of 1,000, which is what it currently is at, unless I'm mistaken. Jane specifically wanted to increase it to 2,000. I didn't include it here, but I will point out that your neighboring town of Pomfret, that separation distance is only 500 feet.
Yeah.
So, so where there's red stuff is where I think you need to really start to narrow down what it is that those dimensions are, rather than adding in new options. Although, having said that, I will say that I don't think that the options of 10 acres versus 50 acres are settled either.
Uh,
So that's really where it is. It's
Okay.
there's been a lot of batting back and forth. Now, what I thought I sent to you today, and I'm annoyed that apparently it is not, was based on the stuff that Rick Poitras shared, some of which was useful and some of which was well-meaning, but not particularly relevant. One thing that was relevant that I was very happy that he was able to sort of ferret out the information. We had previously been bouncing around about whether it was important for the potential licensee to have his license in hand before the application. And there was some uncertainty as to whether that would harm the applicant's chances in the lottery if he didn't have the zoning approval. But what Mr. Poitras was able to determine is that he was able to find a guidance document to applicants from Department of Revenue Services, which stated very clearly, I dropped it into a draft, which is apparently not this one that I have up here.
Yeah,
That
sure,
there's
but- Yep.
a pre-license or a pre-approval or a provisional approval for the license that should be in hand before the applicant comes to us. So I do want to drop that in here. I did drop it into a draft that I have back at the office, but apparently it's not this one.
Yeah, I found it. I found what you guys are talking about because I did started doing my research on this. It's right here. So it's like
Oh.
step one, applicant applies to the DCP for a cultivator and micro cultivator license. Number two, municipal reviews simultaneously. Planning and zoning checks a proposed site is allowed by the district, BDD, special permit, and then the DCP issues the license. And then the operations begin.
Yeah,
That was
so
what
I thought that was very specifically useful and very specifically relevant. So I will 100% get that into the next draft for you guys. I don't know why this is the one that went out today, but that was a mistake.
Yeah,
Um,
I just sent you the email. I'll send you that too, the words that I found.
Kieran, in his thing that he sent out, wasn't there another little piece in there too about where somebody that's a cultivator here that's got the money and they're trying to buy in so they could get in much easier, to maybe Ryan knows more about that because that's in his realm.
I'm not sure I'm following your train of thought, actually, JBL.
Well, what's happening is that in certain part of the state, there are a
Fine
bunch of.
federal.
Go ahead, Ryan.
It's the fine federal example because they own multiple. They're one of the only ones that own multiple dispensaries in town. So
Okay.
they regulate, people that have, say, whatever, more capital or more ability to expand faster. And Curaleaf would be another example because they're a public company. So they're effectively just trying to, make sure that one group doesn't control the whole industry or, take a big, strong position and
Okay.
overpower the state. I think that's where you're going with that, John, but you.
Okay. No, I just needed a little better clarification because I was taking it into that if somebody that's doing a micro cultivation going on over here, and then there's another one over here, and they can get together and share even though it's like a what do you call it,
Like a cooperative?
yes, thank you, that was the word I was looking for.
There is a provision for a multi-tiered system for growing cannabis as well. And it's And then there was a question on I was reading through the website stuff today, and it reads specifically, does each tier count towards my grow space? And it says, no, it's only floor space. So they attempt in the regs for the state to distinguish between indoor and outdoor grows. And they're saying that for indoor grows, the measurement is only considered for the outermost walls of the room, not the footprint of each tier or level. So that would apply to the indoor side. So they're just trying to define that because there is a square footage requirement that we've talked about before.
Right.
Square feet.
So there's square footage, if I'm following you, Ryan, and maybe I'm not, because I hadn't seen this thing about the tiered. It's just the diameter of the building. It's not the actual square footage of floor space.
For the outdoor grow, I believe it is the square footage. For the indoor grow space on a multi-tiered system, then they're saying that it's the outermost walls of the room, not the footprint of each tier or level. So I guess if it was a multi-floored building, I guess is what they're talking about there. Could be more than one floor if you're doing an indoor grow, right? In
Right,
theory.
that is what it sounds like. So, but that sounds like it also takes it out of the realm of micro cultivator and into cultivator, but you're saying it doesn't.
I actually don't know specifically on that to be perfectly straight, but it was just something that I had read about and I was trying to follow what John was saying. So I thought that was
Yeah, well, it would be an interesting distinction because the whole purpose, or at least what seems the purpose of the distinction of a micro cultivator from a cultivator is that you hit your 10,000 square foot limit
Mhm.
and that's it. Any larger than that, then you would be a cultivator. But if, to use your example on an indoor grow, you have, let's just call it a 10,000 square foot by flat area cube, and you build up 3 stories, now you've got 30,000 square feet of grow,
Mhm.
but it's in a 10,000 square foot footprint. That seems to contradict the whole purpose of having micro cultivators. If you can expand infinitely upwards.
Yeah, I brought it up because I found it a little bit confusing as well. So I just figured I'd throw it in there to maybe to think about and discuss, and we could do a little more research on. But it's just something that I came across today.
You know, Tara, he has a good point because if somebody's got a 10,000 square foot building and he can go up, because it's easier to add going up. Brian knows that it's easier to add a floor and a floor on top of each other than it is to expand out because your space in any area like in a the DMRD, the TVCC, and wherever we got the business district, somebody can come in and buy a 10,000 square foot building, and then there's nothing to say for us that he can't put a second floor and a third floor, so which increases his growth. But now, like you said, it changes it from a micro cultivator to a cultivator. So we need to know if it's called looking ahead. We have to look at the picture going ahead because as well as I do, somebody's going to try to come in and do it. Brian should know that. Brian, I'm looking at that picture. So we have to be ready to say, okay, no, you can't expand up because this is what the state says. Or the state says, okay, if you want 30,000 square feet to do 30,000 square footage of cultivating, then you got to meet all the requirements and permits and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just
It becomes super relevant for us because
Right.
cultivator is not an allowed use in the town of Thompson.
correct.
So it makes a difference if an indoor grow can still be a micro cultivator in a 10,000
Square foot.
10,000 square foot perimeter building, but still go up to, and in our case, it would be limited to 3 stories because we have a 3-story height limit.
Yeah.
That's a 30,000 square foot operation in a 10,000 square foot footprint. it is relevant to what we're doing here to know if that is still a microcultivator
Mhm.
or not.
Yeah.
Because if
Well-
it's a cultivator, it's not allowed. But if it's still a microcultivator, you have to decide if that's okay.
And I'm not disagreeing. All I'm giving you is what this, someone will try to do this. So we need to anticipate. Okay, you bought this building, you're gonna do 10,000 square feet of micro cultivating in this building, that's fine. Then all of a sudden, he's gonna come in and, go for a building permit and everything and go from there. Well, I wanna add on another story. Okay, now what do we do? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying we need to anticipate this. I'm not trying to say it's right or wrong, but you know how people can be. If they want to do, they make up their mind they want to do it, they're going to do it. And they're going to try to get around the regs. So I'm just saying I'm just giving you, from my perspective, is we all try to get a little bit extra. Okay. And in this case, where do we put the word stop? Okay, that's it. No more. You can't go second story for this reason because it's not allowed. It's
And to your point, John, you asked about what we talked about at the last meeting. One of the things that we were going to follow up on today, and maybe today may not be the day, depending on,
I think we should have another meeting just on this, but
yeah, for sure. But the question was, does P&Z have the authority to require co-location of a second use with a microcultivator? And that was related to when I was proposing that we have a 50 acre, and I was specifically thinking for an outdoor, an outdoor grow facility. It could be a farm or a big landowner or whatever the case is. So assuming that you have the 50 acres and then, there are other regs in there. And Ray specifically said he didn't think that, that we should have any kind of regulations to tell people what to do with the rest of their property. Like if you wanted to have a micro cultivator and part of your property and then have a bunch of other stuff going on, whether it's animals or whatever you do on your property, then, Ray was saying that we should not have anything on that. And I think that was a question for Attorney Roberts, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and I did not get a chance to get it over to Rich. I apologize for that.
I'm just looking through my notes from your stuff and then from my notes from last meeting.
Yeah, it's been a hectic few weeks
Well,
and I
no
just
worries.
haven't had the chance.
Just something to get everybody back up to speed that wasn't here last time.
now, Tara, this is a suggestion. I think we should take this whole cannabis thing and just put it to the side for a regular meeting or two, because we're gonna have the moratorium coming up in March, and the state don't even know what they're gonna do, and let's just be safe about this, because we don't need to get the Indians up in an uprising over this, so let's just put this to the side to spend one meeting on this. I think that's what we're gonna need. That's my suggestion. Everybody else can say yes, no, or indifferent to it.
Probably would be productive, John, to have one full meeting just dedicated to this, and maybe more people would attend as well. We might have a fuller audience, and we could.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
just from a practical standpoint, I would assume that, so we're in November, we'd be looking at a December subcommittee meeting, would be virtually all spent on the issue of the cannabis, the microcultivator moratorium, because that's the only thing you've got the moratorium on is the microcultivator, although we are also discussing other amendments to that section.
Right.
And yeah, I think we can make the commitment that aside from a quick review of whatever changes get adopted after this, into the consensus language, that we could spend all the time on that. It would be more helpful to have more commissioners here for that, because the groups have been so small for the last 3 meetings that we can't really say everybody's on the same page.
Well, we also touched on it, right? I touched on it in my email, and you guys did separately today. But Rick did a lot of work in trying to get us information, and we all did our own preparations last time. But when was the last time at P&Z that we had that kind of a room, right? A room full of people. It was for cannabis and guns. So those are the two big, hot button issues that we've had in town, where the most people show up for a meeting. So we should probably spend more time on those issues than maybe the other issues.
But there's a reason that we do these things in subcommittee and then we go to full meetings on them, because you guys are the guys who actually know how regulations work. If you go to public meeting on this before you've come to at least some consensus language for public comment, you're going to get everybody with an opinion, right? And that's not helpful. What's helpful
right.
is to come down to language that at least we can be reasonably confident will be legal, and then open it up in that period, that month period where we quote unquote freeze the draft. And then we get people's responses to what you guys as the responsible regulators are proposing. And you guys are I'm going to go out on a limb and say you guys are probably going to extend this moratorium for a year anyway, based on the conversations that we've had. People see if there's any consensus about anything, I think that's where you're headed. You may surprise me, you may change your minds, or you may all come down and have one set of strong opinions between now and February, and that would be fine. Even if you extend the moratorium on microcultivators for another year, that's no reason to not discuss this in the meantime. So you're still pushing the ball up the court in this process. And B, I see you've got your hand up.
If that is the decision, though, we will be, as I showed in the research, we will be the outlier in, Northeast Connecticut relative to the other towns around us, which, that we're the outlier in a lot of things probably, but that's just something to keep in mind that, our peers are not going that way. So.
You say it would be an outlier, you mean it would be the only town that is still holding out banning it? I don't think Woodstock allows any part of it.
I was just going by what was on that sheet from the state website. So that's a good point, Randy. I would love to know what Woodstock's stance is, because I think that's probably the most relevant town in our area, around us. Pomfret, Woodstock, Putnam, those places are immediate peers. I honestly don't know what Woodstock's planning and zoning has for anything, but according to this, it just says approved, that they're approved for cannabis establishments. But, the state of Connecticut is I'm just going to say it. The people that write these regs are so unprepared and lacking knowledge that anything is really possible with the state. So I think the towns need to have even more, input and say the way that they feel and want their reg shaped, because the state is just a disaster. I mean, there's a class action lawsuit against the state, in terms of violating the 2018 Farm Bill and subsequent ones, and they have a pretty good case. So it just doesn't seem like, the state is really that organized or prepared to do it. So we're going to have to kind of do it ourselves, and figure out where we want to be, and that's fine.
Yeah, just to share what Ryan,
let's just say that we're dealing with very challenged people from a state standpoint.
I'll just share what Ryan gave us in Excel form. I organized it by approved. So these are the people that have approved.
So let me stop my share. Hold on. Go ahead. So now this says approved, but approved for what? All
Well,
cannabis
that's what I'm going to
uses?
say. I don't know. So that's
Cannabis establishments. That was the language.
yeah. So I don't know what it's approved for, but my point is a lot are approved. There's a lot in moratorium, and we're in that list. And there's a lot of people that have rejected it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What's going here now, is that what you sent to us, Brian?
Yeah.
I turned my computer on after you sent that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, he sent the second email that attached.
I was just trying to make it data driven so that everybody could understand, but the ones that prohibited it, like I look at that list, and Brian, that is helpful. I probably should have sorted it that way, but when you look at the list of prohibited, all those people are on the other side of the river, so to speak. I mean, there's maybe one town here that's, that's like, I
So I don't know if that was you, Bolden, Woodstock, Putnam approved. To what level of approval, I don't know, but that's to what I'm about to say. Two things, well, maybe three things. One, I agree with Ryan. I feel like this is a hot button for this community. We should be taking our time. We should be looking at, Plainfield, Woodstock, people in our surrounding areas to see what they are approving, come up with a detailed list of that. And then thirdly, we should have a meeting of the minds of this commission again and take our time. And yes, I would support, over the next year. And I would also support having considering it's such a hot button, after we do come to some sort of consensus on that, sharing our data and our thought process with the public in a public meeting and outlining all of the steps and actions that we've taken to prove our validity of what we're presenting.
So when you say a public meeting, Brian, I just want to be clear because there's different kinds of public meetings. You're suggesting a public informational session
Correct.
outside the context of the public hearing.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. I just want to be sure we're on the same page.
Like
I would also
with the
approve that.
fire
And we've done
district,
that. We've
we
done
should
that
be
with
doing-
past updates.
Yep. Just like the fire district thing last night, we should be doing the same thing with this, or at least something along those lines.
Yep, I have no problem with any of that.
Tara?
Who's
Tara.
that? Oh, JBL, yep.
Ryan and Brian got the right idea. Now was pretty much what I was gonna bring into the picture is that we can have a special meeting, we can call a special, to take it away from a regular monthly meeting, because if we included that in a regular monthly meeting, we would be there till midnight. So if we just made it, we can talk about it and bring this in, like Brian says, so the public can give us their input, and we can go from there. But we can bring it up as a special meeting any night of the week, what is best for all the commissioners to attend, in person as well as Zoom, and any of the citizens could do the same thing.
So I think I hear where you're at. What I'm discussing with Brian here, that point in the process is when you've done all of your work.
Correct.
Right? It's presenting your actual consensus on this topic. So at that point, I would
all the
say
history
is
that
not
we've
when
done.
you want it to be wishy-washy. You don't want it to be, oh, what do you think
Absolutely
this?
not.
What do you think of this? What do you
No.
think of this? Because that's when you'll get the
47 different comments.
47
correct.
different comments and somebody just, read about it on Facebook. Look, that's not what you want. When you do those public information meetings, like we just did last night with Fire District, like we did with the 6:30 Riverside thing, you want to be in control of the information from soup to nuts.
Correct.
So you've got to make decisions before that happens.
Well, that's
Even
to
if
go
the
through the
dec-
history
even
of
if
how
the
we got there,
decision
but you got to
is-
be locked in at the end.
Correct.
And that's the
Correct.
reason why I'm trying to take a data-driven approach and start by sharing that information. And I'll share a bunch more that I find relevant as I go through it. But we've clearly got to we've got a lot more work to do.
All right.
Yeah, and that's all-
I'm going to
that's all
throw out this
fantastic.
dart. I love the Patriots. They're on in 2 minutes. Just wanted to say that. Okay.
Does anybody have any objection to ending this meeting early tonight so that I can work on the suggestions you've given and we can return to
Okay.
cannabis in a subcommittee meeting in December?
Can
Go
I
ahead.
just make one comment quickly?
Please
Go
do,
ahead.
Kais.
Yeah.
Okay, I will make it quick. A bill passed last night in here in the state of Connecticut about housing. I just want to know, what does that do for Thompson? How
Oh,
does that
Kais,
affect us?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I was going to bring it up and I forgot.
It only
So-
passed in the House last night. It's still in the Senate
Okay.
at night.
Correct. So
Okay.
I did receive yesterday afternoon a link to the language of the full bill and the language of like an explainer to the bill.
Yep.
So the first bill was HB 5002. It now has a new number. It's HB 8002. I
8,000.
spent 8002.
Okay,
I spent a good deal of time reading through it. I did not read through the whole thing, and I'm doing a markup. Because
we
last,
an update at our, do you think you'd be prepared with a explanation or something for our monthly meeting?
that would,
possibly, probably. So this is what happened the last time. Somebody, it might have been Alvin, sent me an email when 5002 passed the House and the Senate. And I was gonna wait until the governor signed it to send it out to you, but because Alvin sent it to me, I did that whole markup and then the governor vetoed it. So I would rather not go through that kind of extreme effort. Now, I will say that this time, not only is it going to pass the House and the Senate, based on the governor's public comments and the changes that were specifically made to the bill, I believe Governor Lamont will sign this one. But until he does, I wouldn't spend a lot of mental energy wondering how we're going to have to adjust. What was true about 5002 and would also be true about 8002 is that there's remarkably little impact to Thompson because we already did a lot of the things that they're trying to put in at the state level. It doesn't mean no impact. And I'm trying to figure a couple of very specific things out about what they actually mean. It
Okay.
appears
Affordable
that,
housing requirements, like percentages.
yeah,
so one of the main things that they took out, mostly because, you know, the segregationists in Fairfield County got all up in arms that their servant class might be able to move into their neighborhoods.
yeah,
The fair share, the assigned numbers as assigned by the state OPM, that was taken out. What is in there now is like a modification of that, which is that the COGS, the regional councils of government, will be tasked with doing regional analyses and coming up with specific recommendations for their member municipalities. In all likelihood, those recommendations are probably not going to be that different from the fair share numbers, but because they're coming out of the regional organization, the COGS, the assumption is that it's going to be more locally driven, which is fine. So there's no specific number at this time assigned to any given municipality. But even if the first one had gone through, that specific number was not a mandate to the towns that they had to build that number. It was that they had to plan to make that number possible, which those are two very different things. So, like I say, I got it yesterday. I started reading it today. It's going to take me a little while to read it. I read through the first one 2 or 3 times before I made that notated copy for you guys. I assume it will be the same in this case. But I will, if, as I suspect, the governor signs it quickly, which I think is going to happen, at that point, I'll immediately send it to you anyway. But like, don't waste the headspace on trying to figure out the impacts until we know that it's going to be law. I don't think there's going to be much that we specifically have to do. The thing that stood out to me today as being the most likely real change is right now in Thompson, multifamily starts at 3 units, and there's no difference between a 3-unit multifamily and a 200-unit multifamily the way it's in your table of uses. What I think you're going to have to do is create a middle category of multifamily housing from 3 to 10 units, which does not go to special permit process, but just is subject to site plan review by commission. That's what I think is the implication of this language, but I need to read it a couple of times to be sure.
Tara, I don't know if you saw some of the news during the day, but I was kind of watching it when it came up on my phone, and then I went in. It was why they're pushing this bill, from what I gathered from those, the people that have been following it, is that a lot of people in New York City, because of the new mayor of New York, what he's trying to do now, a lot of people are going to be running to Connecticut, which is your
John, there's no basis in reality for
I know-
that.
I know
The problems that rose from this bill, the first iteration of this bill, did originate in Fairfield County,
Yep.
but they had nothing to do with any local policies in New York City.
It has nothing to do with.
It's not local policies in New York City. It's the fact that there's a new mayor that's a communist, and people want to get the hell out of New York City, and they want to buy property in Fairfield. So as if they didn't bid it up enough in 2000, they're now going to go parabolic. And I have friends in Fairfield that are calling me saying that, the housing here is crazy, and they want to find other places to put money and get, it's becoming out of control out there. So there is an actual housing issue in Fairfield County.
There is an actual housing issue in Fairfield County. There's been a housing issue in Fairfield County long before Zaran Mamdani came on the scene.
Yes.
No, for sure. But now it's even more. So there's people that want to move to either Florida, right? Because it's like Wall Street South at this point, and Connecticut, and where they can still commute into the city or things like that. So it's becoming even more competitive. I think that's what John's saying. And that's certainly the way that, a lot of outlets that I've read today had shown that as well. And it also, the other takeaway was that it takes away a lot of the local planning and zoning powers and authorities, potentially, if you're being mandated by the state to have certain housing, requirements for each area. So those were just the initial reads, but they are valid points, and they are things that are at least we should be aware of, right? And we should be able to talk about.
Yeah, but
Agree with it or not, that's what the media is saying.
So HB 8002 is a less stringent housing bill than the prior.
All
The
right.
special
It
session.
still takes away from the zoning in the local community, so just read the bill, guys.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as we get a copy of it, and Terry gets it, sends it to us, but I'm just.
You can go online and read it now. It's there.
Well,
I'll send it to you.
then send it to me.
All
Cindy.
right, well,
Okay.
guys, thank you. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I brought that up. I just wanted to,
No, I'm glad you
Um,
brought it up, guys, because I was
Guys.
going to mention it anyway, and it
Okay.
totally slipped my mind.
that's fine.
Great
All
point,
right.
guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay,
All
good
right.
night.
Now,
Go to bed.
all right, since there ain't gonna be any further things going on here, Terry, you got anything else to say? Brian, and also,
Brian just logged off.
oh yeah, he's ready for the Patriots. If you have nothing else, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second it.
I
Well,
didn't
nobody
say,
made the motion yet, Kai. So
I'll
I think
make
that
the
needs to
motion.
be made.
Well, I was rushing it.
I know you were. You're making a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I made it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Seconded. I need a second.
Second, guys.
No, Ryan. Okay, and it's, what time is it now?
8:23.
8:23, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
When I said this.
Hey, guys. Have a good night.
Run that place.
See you guys.
Have a good night.
Nice job tonight again.
It wasn't gonna be.